And then here's another piece of metalwork. This is quite a bit older, from Bulgaria, part of the Litnitsa treasure in the 4th century BCE. And these are Thracians, and that is a woman. Women wore the close-cropped hair. Maidens, unmarried women did. And she has a 3-headed dragon that she's enchanting, and she's also holding a mirror in her hand. But this is not a mirror, how do I look kind of a mirror. This is a magical mirror. And so this is another whole section of tradition, not only for Europe, but also divinatory mirrors in China and other parts of the world. Even at Çatalhöyük, they had obsidian mirrors. These are examples from the late Iron Age, where you have the old Latin culture patterns of Celts going back to like 300s BCE. And a lot of the mirrors bear these patterns, these kind of burgeoning, swirling fields of energy that were just beloved of the British in this case, but you'll also see them in Ireland and in France, Switzerland, different places. This mosaic from northern Britain, in Yorkshire I think it is of Roman times. So, the Britons didn't really, before the Roman Empire, they didn't really make mosaic floors. So they were borrowing that. You can see a few Greco-Roman figures in here, like the Hercules at the lower right. But then you have at the center a woman with a mirror. She's not really holding it. It's just kind of floating there near her hand. And she's in the presence of a selkie, a mermaid or a merman who might be playing on a musical instrument. It's not really clear. And then all around her, some of these are the animals of the fixed signs. So you've got the bull and the lion, but then they kind of plug in their own British significance. So they've got the deer and what appears to be some kind of panther. And if we zoom in on her, we get a better view. She has possibly a flower in her hand. It's not really clear. But this is native imagery poured through a filter of Roman influence, Roman style of making mosaics. But it's the woman with the mirror. And what's interesting is we see a continuity from that period, say in the 1st century or so, to the Pictish stones that start being carved around 400 or so in Scotland. And one of the motifs that comes through over and over again is the faerie mirror, the mirror and the comb of the faerie woman. And this may also be an emblem of the female ancestor, because the fairies and the dead, the ancestors, overbleed. But you see various other symbols here. There are serpents and various kinds of animals. And some of these animals, like the salmon, may represent, if these are boundary stones, as has been suggested, that this is the clan to which that land belongs. But you can see the mirror and the comb, and this other one with the snake on it, just the mirror only, along with more and more of this pagan interlace that we see all over Europe in the early medieval period. One last piece from Scotland is the witch's stone. And this was destroyed by religious conservatives in the late 1800s. But for many long centuries, women would slide down this stone in order to conceive. And it's very significant that this old megalithic monument on Tormund Hill in Rotho, west of Edinburgh, it's very significant that they call it the witch's stone, that there's the connection of magical ritual of this kind with witches. And this is something that everyday women were doing. And so eventually they were stopped by destroying the stone. But you see there a map there of the hillside that it was placed upon, and there are other stones there that were left alone, and they are really old megalithic period, maybe even earlier, the petroglyphs of cupules that are scraped out of the stone, which also are connected in many places with ceremonies of conception, like the baby rocks in Pomo country in California. So I started out with things that are very clearly linked to magical uses, but anything, any household object can be sacred. And so we see the broom, and we see chalices, we see cauldrons, this woman dancing with a rake. And people had their ceremonies of hearth and field, and they would utilize sacred cloths that they wove themselves, or stones that they found, or looking through a hagstone, which is one of the Scottish names for a stone that has naturally a hole in it. look through, see the fairy world. So that's what I have for you on that, and next we're going to be looking at the Witch's Goddess. That will be module number 5.